Arkansas, a green land in the heart of the American South, where the Ozark Mountains meet winding rivers and misty valleys. Behind its breathtaking landscapes lies a hidden story of small towns once full of hope. Some were born from mining, others from trade or tourism. But time, the economy, and nature are unpredictable forces. Now, many of these places have been reduced to ruins, while others are still struggling just to survive. First, there's a town in Izard County that was once the commercial heart of Calico Rock. This is East Calico. Stores, warehouses, and wooden houses once lined the riverbank, but that was long ago. Everything changed when trade routes shifted elsewhere. The final blow came in 1923, when a massive fire destroyed most of the town and forced its residents to leave. Today, the remains of old brick homes and historic streets have been preserved as a historical site. Visitors now walk among the ruins, trying to imagine the life that once thrived here. East Calico may be gone, but it's been brought back to life as a place to learn from the past, a story of a ghost town that was never truly lost. Not far from there lies Calico Rock, the main town to which East Calico once belonged. Unlike its now dead counterpart, this place still shows signs of life, although it breathes with heavy, labored gasps. Take a walk down its main street, and you'll notice the many empty buildings and long shuttered storefronts, a clear sign of real economic stagnation. Still, a few small businesses remain, especially those tied to river tourism. The residents are doing their best to keep the town alive, though the shadow of decline looms large. And yes, without a new source of economic energy, Calico Rock may eventually follow in the footsteps of East Calico, becoming just another town of abandoned walls and helpless buildings. After witnessing two towns sharing the same origin, yet meeting very different fates, we move on to another tragic story, Monte Ne. Not many people know that these ruins were once part of an ambitious resort town built by William H. Harvey. He constructed a hotel, an amphitheater, even an artificial lake, all to turn the area into a popular tourism magnet of its time. In the early 1900s, Monte Ne rose to fame as an entertainment destination. But the dream didn't last. The owner reportedly went bankrupt, leading to a steep decline in visitors, and eventually, the resort collapsed. Things got worse when the construction of Beaver Dam in the 1930s flooded a large part of the town. Today, you can still visit the ruins, if the water level drops low enough. Remnants like the Oklahoma Row Hotel and the Stone Amphitheater are clearly visible. They seem to whisper a warning. Even grandeur can vanish in the blink of an eye, just as quickly as it appeared. Next is a ghost town known as Graysonia. Unlike the previous towns born from tourism dreams, this one rose from the booming timber and paper industries in the early 1900s. Named after its founder, William Grayson, the town grew rapidly with a massive mill that employed hundreds of workers. At the time, demand for lumber was incredibly high, especially during World War I. However, the town couldn't survive once the paper mill began to slow down production. Graysonia quickly entered a fragile state. By the 1970s, the population had dwindled dramatically, with most residents leaving, and eventually the business collapsed. In the years that followed, Graysonia faded into silence, forgotten by many. Today, all that remains are stories, ruins, and the fading memories of those who once lived there. From here, we move to a town that, while technically gone, is still remembered through active preservation. This is Davidsonville, once envisioned as a new center of governance for Arkansas in the early 19th century. It was even seen as a symbol of progress for several reasons. The first post office in the state was built here, as well as the first courthouse and the first school. At the time, Davidsonville was a thriving town, and its residents saw it as a land of promise. But fate had other plans. A devastating flood destroyed much of the town and shifted the region's economic direction. Slowly, people moved away. Today, parts of Davidsonville have been brought back to life, not as a ghost town, but as a historic state park. Unlike most abandoned towns, visitors here can explore the old foundations and sense the spirit of a place that once marked the early rise of Arkansas history. It's a bittersweet legacy, but one that still speaks. After seeing a town that completely disappeared, let's turn to a small city that still exists, but just barely. This is Cotter, once nicknamed the Gem of the White River, a bustling railroad hub full of life. Hotels, train depots, and workers' homes once gave the town a modern face. But as the golden age of the railroad faded, Cotter fell into stillness. Today, fly fishing tourism on the White River is its primary lifeline. Though still scenic and peaceful, Cotter is often described as a town clinging to survival, teetering on the edge of becoming a ghost town, unless it can draw in new life and renewed purpose. A similar fate has also befallen Clarendon, a small town located along the White River. Its position was once ideal for river transport, making it a key center for trade in agriculture and fishing. But that was in the past. Natural disasters, especially devastating floods, took a heavy toll on the town's infrastructure. On top of that, the decline of river transportation crushed its economy. The impact was structural. Many historic buildings are now abandoned, the main streets are quiet, and the population keeps shrinking. Though still inhabited, the town often feels somber, like it's standing on the brink, one step away from becoming another forgotten ghost town like Rush. Also near the White River, we find Ozark, a town that stands as a symbol of a once proud place struggling with the passage of time. In its prime, Ozark was an important trade hub due to its strategic location. It survived for centuries, but since the 1980s, its population has been steadily declining. Many young people have left, chasing better opportunities elsewhere. Old buildings still stand, some are still in use, but the heartbeat of daily life has grown faint. Ozark isn't dead yet, but the signs of a slow fade are becoming harder to ignore. If the last few towns seemed half alive, then Hopefield is the skeleton left behind. Once a vital settlement along the Mississippi River, it was originally established as a Spanish post in 1795 and grew into a busy ferry terminal and railway connection between Arkansas and Memphis, Tennessee. But despite its hopeful name, this town was not meant to last. After being burned down by Union forces during the Civil War, and later hit by a yellow fever outbreak in the late 1870s, the town's population dropped sharply. Still, it was nature that delivered the final blow. A catastrophic flood in 1912 and ongoing river erosion eventually erased Hopefield from the map. Today, it's no longer a ghost town with standing structures. Its original site lies near present-day West Memphis, some of it now under the river, and some buried beneath the concrete foundations of the Interstate 40 bridge. When water levels drop, scattered ruins from its golden era still appear, just like in Monte Ne. When it comes to ghost towns in Arkansas, few are as well known as this one. Its name is Rush, once famous as the largest zinc mining center in the state. In the early 20th century, thousands of miners arrived here, building homes, bars, and shops that turned the area into a bustling frontier town full of promise. But when World War I ended, zinc prices plummeted. The machines stopped, the lights went out, and Rush slowly emptied. Today, decaying buildings still stand among the trees, preserved as part of the Buffalo National River. Visiting Rush today feels like opening a window into a silent, forgotten past. Thanks to its historical value and scenic location, it's now a designated tourist site, and a popular one at that. Next is a town with a name that's as unusual as its story. OK. It was founded in the late 1920s as a company town, relying entirely on a cement plant. In fact, the name OK came from the cement brand owned by the company itself. Today, most of OK has vanished, leaving behind only concrete foundations, 2 old streets, and a single church. The nearby limestone quarry near Millwood Lake has unexpectedly formed a hidden oasis with white limestone shores that resemble a tropical beach. In the early 1960s, the company began encouraging employees to live outside the town. Bit by bit, the town was dismantled. When the plant shut down in 1993 and was fully abandoned by 1998, OK officially became a ghost town. Like many others, it stands as a classic example of what happens when a town built on a single industry loses its economic lifeline. Then there's a town that reminds us of Arkansas's deep-rooted cotton era, Cotton Plant. The name itself is a snapshot of the town's identity. In its heyday, most of the residents made a living from cotton fields, busy warehouses, and the train stations that shipped out their harvests. But massive changes were inevitable. The shift toward mechanized farming wiped out many jobs, younger generations moved away, and the local economy began to shrink. Today, the main street is often quiet. Rows of old shops are shuttered, and abandoned cotton warehouses stand as monuments to what once was. Though some locals have made small efforts to keep the community going, Cotton Plant clearly follows a pattern we've seen time and time again. When a town's economy relies on just one thing, it faces a tough choice: adapt or slowly fade away. Next, we have a town with a story that's just as bittersweet: Carthage, a small town tucked deep in the pine woods that was once home to a thriving timber industry and tight-knit logging community. In its heyday, the roads were busy with logging trucks. Workers gathered at the depot, and evenings echoed with conversations at humble coffee shops. But when the mills shut down, Carthage began to shrink, slowly but steadily. Today, Carthage feels quieter than ever. A few old houses line the road, several commercial buildings are shuttered, and public services are limited. Infrastructure like the water system and small healthcare facilities often fall short. For those just passing through, Carthage looks like a town waiting for a decision, whether to spring back to life through small local efforts or quietly fade into the history of the timber that once gave it purpose. But that same slow fade can be seen here too, in a place called Bradley. Behind its modest welcome sign lies a town that feels like it's almost asleep. Its population numbers only in the hundreds, and it continues to shrink year after year. The corner store rarely opens, and the once bustling school now holds more empty seats than students. The main road is mostly traveled by trucks and a few locals. The residents who remain all know each other, living off small-scale farming and the occasional traveling vendor. The town is so quiet, it feels as if time itself has slowed down. Without a new economic boost or the return of younger generations, Bradley runs the risk of shifting from a quiet town to one that's completely abandoned. And finally, we come to the last town on our list, Eudora, a place that reflects change in more dramatic ways. Here, the quiet isn't just about natural decline, it's a sense of loss you can feel. The community tries to hang on, but waves of urban migration and the modernization of agriculture have drained Eudora's spirit. From East Calico to Eudora, the stories of Arkansas's small towns aren't just about ruin. They're about transformation. They remind us that prosperity is always temporary unless it's matched with the ability to adapt and endure. Some towns have died, others are still fighting, but all of them teach a similar lesson. History isn't always written in books. Sometimes it's carved into crumbling bricks, faded signs, or roads no longer traveled. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere between the morning fog and the whispering river, Arkansas still calls out, "No town is ever truly lost, as long as someone remembers it." What do you think?